Love, light, and blessings. Shamanic at Work Priestess here, and this is your Paranormal Series, episode 3, or part 3. Where we left off last time was when I was talking about how, towards the end of the video, how I lost my kids, the police attack, and everything else, and how I did a ritual to the Black Madonna, which ended up being a Ziridanto. She came in as the Blessed Mother apparition, how she helped me to get my kids back, right? So if you want to watch more details about that, watch part 2. I'm going to try to link all the videos on this one so you guys can follow along. Yes, I broke my nail. It really hurt too. I have to get my nails fixed, but I don't know when I'm going to do that, to be honest, because there's just a lot of chaos going around right now. And despite what the news is saying, there's things going on. There's like actual riots and protesters and counter protesters and all this kind. And I just don't want to be going out. Then we have COVID, so just trying to stay indoors as much as possible. A broken nail is not like a life and death thing, so when I get a chance, I'll do it when I feel it's safe. But moving on, that's not the topic of this video. So if you, I'm gonna link the part 1 and part 2 to this. That way you can, know what happened in that context, because I want to kind of move on and not spend too much time talking about that. But this one is going to cover an experience that I had between that time. So right after all that stuff, once I started getting spiritual again, I started doing readings even when I didn't have my children. The clients on the psychic hotline that I worked for didn't even know I was going through a hard time, and things like that. So while I was going through my own things, I was reading. People were happy to see me come back because I had left for a couple months or whatever. And that was what I was told to do by Zilidanto. She called me into this life. It's why I really started dedicating myself to psychic readings and root work and spell work and helping others, because she gave me back my children. And so at this time, I already had my youngest daughter back and my youngest son. The two older kids were with their dad, and things like that. And I would still, they would come to visit and joint custody because of logistics and school reasons, and things of that nature. But I did get my kids back. It's just that their father and I thought, because, them being in eighth grade and one was going into ninth grade of high school, I wanted her and her brother to kind of finish out their school year, then come back to me that summer. Okay, so during that time, okay, um, I started really having some really deep spiritual experiences. One of them was, and I explained that one in another video, how I got my Indian spirit, and I found out he was a real person and an activist, and how he had given me visions. Okay, he's one of my main Native American spirit guides, and I remember going to the antique store and just being drawn to buy his statue. To this day, I still have that particular statue, even though I have others. The statue is really big, and I got it for like $35, which, I'm gonna be honest, if I was to go to a botanica, those would be one of the statues that I would have paid anywhere from $100 to $200, to be honest. But that statue was meant for me, and when the spirit gave me his name, I Google searched it. It was an actual real historic figure, which was amazing. And knowing that that statue was owned by a shaman, living in the part of Pennsylvania that I did, they have a very huge Seneca presence there. And the Seneca also had ties with like the Lakota, and things like that. So yeah, so that, I did speak about that in a previous video as well. So that was during that time as well. So I started following this person on YouTube called Carmen Shide. And Carmen Shide, because I started just continuing to have very, very deep visions with the Native spirit. For those of you that don't know, I am part Native American. I know this is something that I mentioned, but I don't know, it's never really addressed. I know I don't talk about that part of my ancestry much. because it's such a closed off tradition, and things like that. I'm very protective of it. But I just kept having these really profound experiences with my native spirit guide. In one vision, he showed me himself older, and we were on these like plains. And when I looked down, I saw like a 1930s, 1940s car driving around, and him just sitting at the edge of the cliff, looking down and crying. And he was showing me like what they were doing to the sacred burial grounds and things like that. So I did a lot of healing work. He made me very active. He made me really want to research my own Native American ancestry, to be a voice for Indigenous people, which I feel doesn't get talked about enough. Native Americans are very disenfranchised in their country. American Indians are from America, disenfranchised. That Native from the Caribbean, disenfranchised. From South America, from Australia, the Aboriginal people. Indigenous people are very disenfranchised. Very seldom have any type of voice in government. And just the way they treat them in the reservations. I've had firsthand experiences of people that have had to leave the reservation because of how poor quality healthcare is, high suicide rates, in some tribes, alcoholism. I mean, it's just a lot going on. And so I do a lot of work with my native spirit guides, with my Indio spirit court, and he was showing me just the hardships of his people. A lot of times when he comes into possession of me, I cry a lot. It's like when I went to Puerto Rico and I went to El Yunque, I could hear the screams and the crying and the sorrow of my Taino ancestors, to the point where I almost passed out in El Yunque, which is the rainforest in Puerto Rico, where they still has carvings of indigenous people, of the Tainos, the first inhabitants of Puerto Rico and many Caribbean islands of the Caribbean, Trinidad, Jamaica, Santo Domingo, Haiti, Cuba, so on and so forth. And I could hear their suffering. So a lot of times when I'm working with native spirits, I'm working with a lot of spirits that were murdered, that were colonized, that suffered. I've seen visions of, when I am connecting with them, of how their people and their tribes were raped and pillaged. Like, I'm seeing this as if I'm seeing you. So a lot of that work, like the work that I do with the Madama, which is a court of enslaved African of the diaspora ancestors, and seeing their plight, and doing a lot of work with that. These things are very emotional. So when I was working with, one time when I was working with my native spirit, my indigenous spirit guide, um, I was feeling sick. And I remember I was like doing meditations and everything, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the store, not feeling very well. So I go to the store. I left my son and his little sister with my neighbor upstairs, because I was just gonna go get cereal and things like that. But I wasn't feeling good, like I couldn't breathe all of a sudden. And I remember everything going black. And next thing you know, I'm conscious, but there's strangers around me, and they're like, stay down, because I'm trying to like get up. As a mother, the first thing you're thinking is, I have to go get my kids. I gotta go, the neighbor, and the EMT comes, they take me away. I'm told that my blood pressure was really high. I wasn't able to breathe. I am asthmatic, but this was like the asthma attack of asthma attacks. And I remember, them having to actually give me shots, not just respiration, breathing treatments, but shots. At the time, my husband at the time, we were estranged, whatever, that kind of thing, really going through the process of separation. He came to my aid. Like, he found out the kids were with a neighbor. I guess the neighbor must have called him. I really don't know the details. But I think that's what happened. And he got our daughter and my son, and he went there. So he's the father of the youngest one, okay? The other three are from my first husband. The two older ones at that time, again, were living with their dad because of school reasons. So he follows me to the hospital, and this is the part that he told me I could hear somebody screaming because I'm in and out of consciousness. Again, they just giving me shots. They're trying to get me to breathe. I had such low oxygen, so like I was actually losing consciousness. Long story short, um, I almost died because I don't want to get too like that's heavy, but let's just say I almost died. Um, yeah, I almost died. I had a severe lung infection. Um, And so basically, I had bronchitis that turned into pneumonia. Being that I'm asthmatic, turned into something complicated, which caused me to lose consciousness because I wasn't getting enough oxygen. And I had like, I forgot the medical term, I can't think of it right now, but I had literally an infection in my lungs and the lining of the lungs. And just like, I just could not pass oxygen very well. I was really sick. During the time that I was out, that's what I kind of want to touch on in this video. Um, I could see outside myself. So basically, whether you believe this or not, I could see everything that was going on around me. So I can see the people working. I could see the people, trying to get me to breathe and all that stuff, right? But I was outside of my body. I don't know if you guys ever had that kind of experience where you're like looking down on yourself. My native guide brought me into those planes again. So I was like looking at planes and I'm watching the elements. So I'm watching like spiritual beings in the ocean, like these creatures, spirit entities, telling me names that I never heard of. So I was like, what are you talking about? Who are you? So I saw beings in the water. I saw beings in fire. I saw beings in the earth, beings in the air. So once he gets me into the air, there's like a beautiful woman with braids, but she has like white hair, so she looks really elderly. From there, I'm taken into the clouds. So everything's going fast. In this experience, like time is fast, right? So I'm going into the clouds and I'm watching these creatures that are, I think they're angels, but they're not looking like this. None of the beings that I saw, neither in the water or any of the elements, okay, look like this. Okay, nor did they look like this, right? I know this is how we, make art and stuff. This is what angels look like, that kind of thing that people say, but they didn't look like that, okay? I didn't know what they were. They were these winged creatures that were like attached to each other and they were going side to side. So they were walking like side to side attached to each other, okay? So I'm seeing that type of situation in this void place. I go up, but it's like I see like a lot of yellow golden lights just flashing. Everything's going really, really fast. So then I'm going somewhere else. I have this guide that looks like a winged creature. So I'm like, I think that's an angel. They told me Archangel Michael, but I'm gonna be honest, the presence was a little scary. Archangel Michael had like gems on their leg. They didn't look like this at all. Um, and they were taking me. So in one of the situations, I'm seeing like this book that a whole bunch of light beings, so just rays of light standing around this book, okay, which I guess is the book of life because it's a book that all these like spiritual entities are looking at and they're looking down on it. No one's talking. It's like they're all talking to me in my brain. So it's like Archangel Michael's talking to me in my brain, but I don't know what he's saying or they're saying. I don't know how to explain. Um, so they're looking at this book of life, this, that, and the other. And from there, I'm taken to this volcanic place. And now this looks like Archangel Michael, or feels like an Archangel Michael type of energy, right? So I'm like, wait, you're guiding me, but then now you're showing me a place where you live. Because all of a sudden my guide changed, and the guide was like Archangel Gabriel. So now I guess we're in the realm where Archangel Michael lives, because for some reason, like again, they shift. Okay, so I'm like, okay, now there's a different angel guiding me. Okay, I'm very, very confused by this experience. And again, they're talking to me in my brain. Nobody's verbalizing. Every entity, every light being that I'm seeing, like they're moving so quickly and so fast, right? I'm just like, what in the heck? So there's like this volcano, and then this place is gloomy and scary. And I'm watching a lot of like souls just walking endlessly, like they're just walking around in this endless place, right? I could feel the gloom in it, right? And the angel that's with me is like, do not be afraid, like I'm not taking you there, I'm just showing you. And I said, okay, because I was like, wait, is this judgment? Am I going to hell? I didn't see like, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see like Satan, I didn't see pitchfork, I didn't see people being consumed by fire, I just saw people being lost. So this could have been purgatory. That's why, to be honest, I don't believe in hell. When I had my near-death experience, I never saw hell. So I don't know, maybe because that's not where I was gonna go or whatever the case. I just saw like a holding place. That's what it felt like to me, of lost souls, and I saw like Archangel Michael ruling over that. Okay, then they take me somewhere else, and this place where I'm taken to is so amazing, because there's like, they take me to a place where I'm looking down from clouds, and I'm looking down from the clouds, and I'm seeing people from all cultures. So I'm seeing people from the Middle East, I'm seeing people from America, people from Africa, like people from all Asian, like people from all over the world. And these lights, these orbs are just, they're just all around us, these energies, these whatever you want to call them, like in the speed of light, literally the speed of light. And they're going into the wombs of the women. So it's like little lights are going into the babies, like two lights, boom boom, like, and then there's lights going into like the babies in the womb, there's one light, boom. But then there's the babies that are born, there's another light. That's why I said there's two lights going into babies, one with the pregnant women and the other with the babies that are born already. And I'm just like, wow, like what is that, like is that they're like, because I know that people say everybody has a guardian angel, so I'm like confused, because I'm like, okay, so it's going into the womb of the pregnant lady, makes sense, everybody's assigned a guardian angel, but why are also lights going to babies after they've already been born, little infants in nurseries or whatever the case may be, or in the hospital, or women that just literally gave birth, like what are those lights about? So very like, wow, right? um they take me back, Archangel Gabriel also looks the same way as Archangel Michael, with the gemstones, and doesn't look like an angelic, like traditionally we would think angels look like. And I'm taken to this place where I feel peace, okay? Peace, but I'm not in the actual place. Like there's a door, but I could see through the door, and there's like, I can't see a face, but I'm seeing like a radiating gold light sitting on a chair. It looks like a throne where maybe a king would sit or something, or royalty would sit. But it's like a being of light, like golden light, right? Nothing, I can't see faces. I can't see a face. I'm not even going to say her live. And I'm watching these like spiritual entities talking in like a foreign language, but I get like they're praising that entity or whatever. And it's just such an overwhelming feeling. I wanted to go with it. I wanted to go with that energy. Like all the pain that I've ever felt when I was sick, before I got hospitalized, the losing of my children, the demise of my marriage, everything that I have gone through from the day I was born to that moment was gone. Like I didn't feel sick, I didn't feel sad. I felt this loving, overpowering energy. I can't explain it. And it was intense and it was a lot. But I was told by my guide, do not go through that door. And the vision is done. Okay, this really bright light comes in. I'm back in the hospital. There's a heart monitor. I have all these things on me. I'm like, what the hell was, what kind of dream was that? I was told later on, no, we kind of lost you for a few minutes, whatever the case may be. So I had an actual near death experience. And that's what I saw. When I had this experience, because I was at a crossroads, because my ancestors, my loas, my orishas danto was coming to me. And even though she told me you're not doing anything wrong, and I had like literally a demonic spirit telling me I'm going to do all these bad things to you if you continue to help people, I realized that I wasn't doing anything wrong, that this was my calling, that all the things that I was ever told, you're going to go to hell, you're going to burn. I never saw that in my vision. I saw a holding place where the lost souls were, where the angel was presiding over that and kind of making sure those souls stood there. So I believe personally in a purgatory, in a place where we held until we can make penance, right? I saw different types of angels, you know what I mean? I saw entities in the throne. I guess that's what divine spirit, creator, God, you know, must be, this beautiful radiant light, or at least that's the apparition I got, but I couldn't see their face, which I know when I was going to church, they said you can never see God's face or you die. So that kind of makes sense to me why I couldn't see a face. But I'm telling you, I felt so much peace. If I were doing something wrong, wouldn't I have been brought to the purgatory place or the holding place and held there? But I wasn't. I was showed it, but I wasn't held there. I saw a book. I saw this throne. I was actually brought to a heavenly, peaceful place, you know, where I didn't feel sick. I was no longer asthmatic. I was no longer sad. I was no longer in pain. There was no worries. It was this overwhelming, universal feeling of unconditional love. It was such a beautiful feeling that I wanted to stay there, but it wasn't my time. This, you know, the angel wanted me to go back to my family. And that's when everything changed for me. All the doubts that I had in the past that I was doing something wrong were gone. And I remember I started getting into chakras. And Carmen A. Shai started talking about angels. And when I had that experience, I saw angels different. I didn't see them as Christian energies anymore. I saw them as spirit guides, right? As extensions of creator, whatever creator is, you know? And she had featured this book, The Angel Bible, is why I featured it on one of my top 5 books that changed everything for me. And I read this book cover to cover. I did the meditations on it, all of these things, okay? And when we got to the chapter of the different levels of heaven, a lot of this, and I never read this book prior to my experience, related to the experience that I had when they would explain the hierarchy of the different angels. So outside of archangels, there's other angels. And part of the book explained about angels being stuck together and walking. How, like, I'm like, oh my, I never studied angels or angelology. So I knew that this experience was authentic. And to even blow your mind more, like literally one of the angels that talked to me, Zedekiel, which I never knew who that was mentioned in this book. Another angel, I don't want to say her name, that was also mentioned in this book that I saw in the ocean. So that was like, oh, that was the strange names that I was hearing. These are actual angels. Angel names that I never heard of. This is when I got into like Doreen Virtue and her angel deck. So I had the Archangel Oracle, messages from your angel, things like that. And I really started immersing myself in the study of angels. This is why I always say this was groundbreaking for me, because a lot of the things in here I can relate to. This also got me into, this book talks about like healing the chakras through the angels. So I started learning about that. Certain crystals you could use to communicate with angels. I've never heard of crystals. This is not my espiritismo, my santeria background, or my voodoo background. This was something outside of that. This is like a separate practice that I have. So I started studying crystals, and I started doing so many types of healing. Working with the chakra system changed my life. I started doing angel readings for clients. I had this whole new, like, I knew that everything was going to be okay after that experience. I started doing client readings. My life got better. I was able to move out of that apartment. Okay. I was able to heal the relationship with my spouse at the time. I decided after a while that we just were not meant to be, and I ended up relocating to a different part of Pennsylvania. But everything changed with that experience. It was like I need to be a spiritual worker, so I have to get out of this toxic relationship so that I can be an example to my clients when I'm teaching them or mentoring them about narcissistic and toxic relationships and unhealthy situations. This person that I was with suffered from alcoholism and a lot of mental issues and a lot of things that you cannot fix a person. A person has to want to get the help that they need. And working with the angels and doing this meditations and learning how to cut cords, and I started doing magic with the angels. Okay, I had like a whole angel altar as separate from my Afro-Caribbean altars. And working with my indio, one day I was having a vision with him. We would have like these, when I would meditate, I would literally go into other times and other realities. And I remember he showed me this beautiful, beautiful black woman. At the time, I thought it was my mother's grandmother. She was very beautiful. She very African looking, very dark skin. Her hair was as white as cotton. She just was just beautiful. She would wear her hair short like an afro. She always dressed in white. But she told me, no, I'm appearing to you as your great great grandmother, but I'm not your great grandmother. And she gave me the name La Madama. I went to my mom and asked her who this was. And I started serving her since that day. She gave me, so your family gives you your misterios, like the ancestors on your altars. That's what the white altar is so important. They give you your misterios. Working with the ancestors is the most important thing you could do, because we believe that our deities are ancestors in Afro-Caribbean religious practices. So this experience with the angels, I wanted to share and specifically focus on that life-changing experience because it literally changed my life. And I just felt this was the right time because we're going through so many things right now in this world. I want you to know that there is something out there, whatever you want to call it, God. Some people say goddess, spirit, creator, whatever it is that you believe in, Mother Nature, whatever. We're going to be okay. Humanity has always faced adversities, but we too shall triumph over this. Love will always win over hate. Light will always take out the shadows. And we will, this world, this whole thing will be reborn, right? I believe, and this is my faith, and this is what helps me cope through these hard times, that there's something greater than myself that is watching over me. And yes, I'm active. I'm not just sitting around and praying for things to happen. I work with these energies to create, to manifest, and to fight oppression like our ancestors have done before us. But I do believe that something greater than us is in control and that everything goes through cycles. And I was going through the worst of times, and I just became such a stronger spiritual person after that experience. And I was able to move to where I live now 5 years ago. That was like a year and a half after I had that near death. It just gave me the strength to work on letting go of my ex-partner and realizing this is not a good situation for me. And wanting to be an example to my clients, and I knew that the spirits called me into this because from the first day I logged into the psychic hotline, I would watch other psychics like literally just be in free chat and nobody would book them. And I was always booked. Like people that know me from the site, like you can never get you on free chat. Like you were always in private readings, private readings, private readings. Some people were like, I waited a whole week to read with you. Like, oh my goodness, because I could only read for so many hours and have to log off. But I was blessed. I was blessed. And when I started giving the spirits what was spirits, I was able to relocate where my two older kids were because I ended up not actually taking them back with me, but instead moving somewhere that was better for all of us mentally, while my ex got help for what he needed to get help with and dealt with his own things. And I continued to work on the psychic hotline after I moved here. Um, and everything else. I had to stay with like family for like 3 months until I saved up enough money to move. Their internet kind of sucked, so like I got on the hotline as much as I could. But once I had the money to move, I was out. And I moved into this place. I had no furniture because I left everything behind at my old place and things like that. So I had to start here 5 years ago from scratch, like no furniture at all. Just kind of saved money to have furniture, bought things little by little, and things of that nature. Okay. And when I moved here, I remember I set up my sacred space, and it was so nice because it was like that whole year and a half of healing made me a more powerful spiritual person. It got to the point where the hotline that I worked for got bought over by somebody else. And I kept, reading for myself, and I kept getting the message like, you're going to end up quitting. I'm like, how am I going to quit? This is my main source of income, right? Um, but they were right. Like in 4 months, like the spirit said, I left. I didn't like, they were taking 70% of our income. I didn't like the new practices of the new owners, where the old owners actually tested the psychics, and I could say, oh, this was a good site to go for readings. They started just hiring anybody. A lot of people were charlatans, and I'm just not for that. But I didn't know what to do. And my spirits are like, working with La Madama, working with Danto, they were like, you're going to do something better. And ended up coming on, like, okay. So I did my thing. I was doing readings in person. And then, believe it or not, it's going to be 4 years that I went into business for myself. And I made a website. I came on YouTube. Okay, in June of this year, it would be 4 years that I went into business for myself. And that's what I did. And within that year, that first year, I was only working part time in the hotline and part time in this, my own business because, it's growing. And then after that first year, I was able to leave the psychic hotline permanently. So I did my 1 or 2 years after, and I was able to go into business for myself, Yeah. So that's what I did. I started reading people in face for a little while, dealt with the changes of the website, and then, within that first year, after that first year, when I launched my business, I went into full-time professional readings, so because I told the spirits, you called me to do this, so like you have to provide the means for me to live on. I gave up a nursing career for this. I gave up, I'm a college educated person, so living through a spiritual business, it's a leap of faith. It's not guaranteed income. So I was very blessed. I was very blessed. I no longer watch Carmen A. Shai's channel. I don't even know what's on anymore. And I have since like evolved to other things. Then I discovered like Tarot Tube and deck walkthroughs and went through the whole thing with that. But yeah, like when I moved here, like I really, oh, sorry about that. When I moved here, breaking the computer. When I moved here, I literally really got into my cultural practices even more, because I feel like the more healed I got, the more I was able to really get in touch with other uh, entities. And this place, through my spirit guides, is where I met my godmother for voodoo. And I went from still working with the Orishas to kind of evolving into voodoo, and just finding that Haitian voodoo is what really spoke to me. And that's how I got into that path. And I got a bunch of paranormal stories I have to tell you about that part of my spirituality when I started practicing voodoo, and things of that nature. So stay tuned to episode 4, where I'm going to take you guys down the road of when I started my really practicing Haitian voodoo. Okay, guys, much love, much light, much blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video. And until the next video, sorry about slapping the laptop up, but I think I'm just gonna put the video. It was like 1 second of me slapping the camera. I think it'll be okay, right? Right. I don't feel like re-recording this right now. All right, guys, much love, much light, much blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Until the next video, bye.